My dad was a graphic designer in Deep Ellum, Dallas. He had a studio called Mad Cat Design. This is actually his logo.
Your arm up a little bit?
That's his logo.
Nice.
Yeah, Mad Cat Design. That was done with a freaking guitar string and a homemade tattoo gun.
Those are the best ones, right?
I know, right? Yep. He was a graphic designer. You know, he did a lot of stuff. We hung out. My mom was actually one of the first nurses during the big HIV/AIDS pandemic in Dallas, and she actually did home care for all of the HIV and AIDS patients there. And my dad, you know, he did graphic design for, you know, like 90s fucking like honky tonk shit, you know what I'm saying? So
Rockabilly type stuff?
oh, it was rockabilly. Like there was times we'd go to like it would be like a big gathering of like bikers and shit, and everyone was like dressed like it was the 50s. And I just remember being young and riding on the back of motorcycles and shit. And then we always hung out at this place called the Sons of Herman Hall in Deep Ellum. It's the last German Texas standing building, I'm pretty sure. Don't hold me to it. I have pictures with the Dixie Chicks before they were famous. We knew fucking Joe Eli. We knew fucking Jimmy Dale Gilmore. Fucking all these like Texas rebel, early 90s, you know, fucking country people. And we were pretty much raised there. The lady Jo, the bartender, would like watch us when we were all little and shit. Even last time I went, she was like, I mean, we haven't seen her in like 10 years. And she cried because she was like, oh my God, you look just like your dad, Tom. But yeah, we had, you know, American dream. I always call it like almost like, to me, when I look back on it, it's almost like the failed American dream. Because my dad, you know, he just bit off more than he can chew. And we were living in Plano, Texas, and this beautiful home just got built right behind this subdivision got built. Right behind this Longhorn farm, and my dad just couldn't afford it, and he ended up taking his life when I was 11 years old, and my sister was 13 and my brother was 15. Yeah, he shot himself when I was 11, and you know, I don't even remember really how I was reacting. Like I just remember being young and not really understanding it. Then my sister, she just started getting a little rough, hanging around a lot of rough people. And in Dallas, you know, there's people who will like take advantage of like young kids, you know, kind of like gang related type shit. And from my understanding was if she was here, she might fucking be like, shut up, you know what I'm saying? But she got with this dude, and my mom got a call one day and was like, do you know who your daughter's hanging out with? And she was like, who's that? And he's like, you know, this guy who finds vulnerable girls, and he sex traffics them to Louisiana from Texas. And he finds, you know, girls that are similar to your daughter. And she was like, holy shit. And I just remember, you know, her always running from cops. I remember Tupac blaring all the time, you know what I'm saying? It was like late 90s, whatever. And so we had to get out of there.
Let me ask you this. What do you remember about your dad? Like, how do you remember him?
Goofy, graphic designer, talented. He loved baseball. He was our baseball coach. We played a shit ton of Texas ball. We were very competitive. We played state ball. I was a mean shortstop. He was my brother's coach. My brother actually, they went to New York and played in Cooperstown against Puerto Rico. Like, they were really good. They lost, but they got their asses kicked. He's like, all they do is fucking work on crops and play baseball, dude. You know?
So like a strong man, good role model.
Yeah, he was. He was just, you know, it was a life lesson, you know. He was super artsy. One of the reasons why I want red-tailed hawk feathers is because he was always like, you know, he'd always bring up weird situations. Like he'd tell me to put on glasses and look out the window when we were driving by oil fields in Texas, and he'd be like, you see that color? Like there'd be like those certain, you know, glasses where you're looking, it's kind of like an orange tint. And for some reason, I just remember him being like, that's what the world's supposed to look like. You know, and I was just remember being young, being like, what? And then he would talk to me about reincarnation, and then something about a hawk. I remember just like something about a hawk. Forever, I've just loved hawks and predatorial birds. And he came from, you know, like missionary families. Like E.C. Moore, my grandfather, was like a on TV preacher. And so he like grew up, you know, poor Alabama, and then traveling around the countries to different missionaries and stuff. And I think that really affected him. Like he was like, fuck this shit. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that was a big life lesson to him. But he just bit off more than he can chew. And it's just like a life lesson. It's why I fucking hate money, and why I fucking, you know, my goal in life, instead of fucking trying to have some mansion or something, I'd rather buy outright and fucking, you know what I'm saying? And I give when I can because this world is fucked.
Your father passed away when you were 11. That's all. I lost my dad 18 but 16 because he got sick when I was 16.
Oh shit.
And then he was done.
Yeah.
And then I saw it throughout the years. But you know, when you're young like that, you don't got a male figure around. So how did you kind of respond to that as you became a teenager?
Oh yeah. It's funny you say that because it's a big thing I'm talking to my therapist about. You're almost better than my therapist, dude. Yeah, no, yeah, but so is she. But no, yeah, you do. You search for fucking role models, and it's so weird because you're stuck in this situation of these feelings that you're not able to go talk to a grown ass man who's already been through life to be like, I have this feeling, what do I do? Or this dude's fucking with me, what do I do? So all you do is you hold all your shit deep inside and you feel weak, you feel pressured, and you just explode in weird ways. So then you're like, okay, I'm trying to be, you know, through the teenage years, there's a lot of anger, a lot of outbursts and weird shit. You're doing weird shit. You're being, as a boy, you know, I'm wrecking shit and just dumb shit.
I could see you tearing shit up.
Oh yeah. You know, and just when we moved to Florida, you know, we moved to Florida because of my sister's situation, all that stuff. We moved to Florida to be around more family, Pensacola, Florida. You know, my sister was still doing the same shit. My brother ended up going to the Marines. So my sister had a baby at 15 years old. So I didn't really have a lot of attention on me. So I literally would leave the house and I would just walk up and down the streets where we lived in Cantonment. And I would literally just listen to music for fucking 4 hours.
Music?
Operation Ivy, dude, was my biggest album. Literally Operation Ivy fucking energy album. And I would fucking literally just on repeat. And then a whole lot of punk rock. So like Black Flag, fucking Dropkick Murphys, fucking all, you know, cool shit. Street punk. I was like street punked out at the time. So it was like Casualties, fucking Flogging Molly, like all that shit, you know what I'm saying? And The Virus, and I had fucking 3 red mohawks and all this fucking, I was weird, bro. You know, I remember like, I still have my leather jacket to this day, my first leather jacket, but like Misfits. But yeah, I would just walk up and down the road. I actually got sound systems gonna bring me back up on my chest, dedicated to those times. I could still listen to that album over and over and over and over again. Even when my mom was trying to get me therapy when I was 13 years old, they're like, just let him walk. But little did she know I was fucking like walking 3 doors down to a fucking drug dealer's house and buying fucking weed and then walking some more, you know?
Around that time, did you kind of get into drugs a little bit?
Oh yeah, yep. Started fucking experimenting, you know, smoking weed. You know, once you find weed, you're like, oh shit. You know what I'm saying? You're like, yeah.
Wow, things feel better.
Yeah, you're like, this is fun. Yeah, so met my buddy Chris Murphy. And rest in peace, dude. Fucking, that's a sad one. You know, fuck fentanyl.
Have you lost a lot of friends?
Lost a lot of fucking friends, dude. You know, that shit's fucking garbage and it's trash. And it's fucking disgusting. I met with him and me and him would literally go fucking smoke cigarettes, weed, and we go to this fucking graveyard right down the road. And there's this like down tree and we just fucking sit in that down tree. Both of us fucking mohawked out and shit. We'd like climb it, we'd be sitting on this branch and we just smoke fucking cigarettes and weed and fucking just shoot the shit and talk about things that we thought we fucking knew, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like fucking just stupid shit. Like fucking government, dude. It's fucking, you know, they don't know. It's like, why? Almost like, but when you think about it, it was like philosophical. You know what I'm saying? Like you're almost like, we weren't half wrong.
How did train hopping come into all this?
So, train hopping. So just traveling in general. I was all into punk rock and stuff. And after like, you know, hanging out downtown, like I'd just go downtown with friends and go to all these, you know, small venue punk rock shows and shit. And then all of a sudden you start meeting all these folk punk kids and shit like that. And then you start getting into bands like Leftover Crack, Choking Victim, fucking all these. It's just like develops from like street punk to like, I met this girl. I forget too. I don't know if we took a Greyhound or drove, but we went up to Ohio, Mansfield, Ohio. And the first time I ever hitchhiked was from Mansfield, Ohio to Columbus, Ohio. Stayed there and then went back. And it was kind of like, that was like the first like, huh, that was cool. We shot back down to Florida. God, I was just so stuck. She ended up leaving and like doing her thing, hopping a bunch of trains and shit. But I was stuck with my family. I was bringing groceries to my sister. She was living in like the hood and shit. And like I was bringing groceries and having all these like big old fucking ghetto dudes being like, fucking white boy, fucking pussy ass. It's just like, and I just felt like so stuck and shit. And I was just like lost, you know what I'm saying? I just had to get the fuck out. So anyways, I, knew some people who train hopped, and this dude, Mark, I was like, let's go. He was like, you want to go? We'll go. I was like,
How old were you at this point?
I was probably like either 18 or 19, And this dude actually had like a fucking walkie-talkie, dude. Like a walkie-talkie that where you could hear like the CSX workers like talk on and shit. And he like, he knew his shit. He's been around. He's like traveling and all that. So I met him, and that's where I hopped my first train. So you got Mark, the dude who first took me, and you got this guy Caveman, rest in peace, buddy. I don't even remember where we met him, honestly, in Birmingham. This was in one of the worst places I've ever been in my life, Moody and Leeds, Alabama. And there was a storm about to hit, a tornado storm. We were spanging outside of Walmart. We made like $400 and we were like, fuck yeah. And then we ended up sneaking into this hotel room, like getting all of our dogs in there and shit. And then we ended up getting kicked out, and the owner was like chasing us like, hey, hey, hey. We're like walking through this fucking mud field, like boots coming off because it's like so sticky, trying to get away from this dude. But we went back to the same Walmart to get more money. It was not a good idea because fucking next thing we know, this cop rolls up and he's like, hey guys, he was like super cool. He was like, hey guys, you guys got to get out of here. People have been complaining. We know about your hotel stay and shit. But then the sheriff rolls up, and this cop literally looks at us and goes, shit. And that's when I knew. I was like, oh fuck. And then the sheriff comes up and he's like, you fucking listen here. He was like, I need you guys out of my town. He's like, I don't want to see you on the fucking interstate. I don't want to see you on my ramps. I don't want to see you. He's like, if I see you again doing this same shit, he's like, I will put you in jail for a long fucking time.
Tell me about this guy.
That's fucking Justin. I took him on his first train. He wanted to ride trains. That picture right there is hilarious because we ended up in Floamington. I knew it was going to be our first stop. Like it's a train yard where you got to hide, but there was nobody around. But I told him, I was like, we got to hide. So I made him get in the fucking hole just so he'd get dirty as shit. So I was sitting there just stay in there. And he was like so pissed, like, what the fuck do I get to get out? And I was like, you stay in there. I'm watching. And the whole time I was just like laughing, like, it was funny, yeah.
Like in the purest form, what does it feel like when you're out there? Like this picture right here. What's it feel like when you're seeing this?
At first it's fucking crazy. So that right there, that I don't even know where that is. We fell asleep, I want to say through Nashville, and then we were on a train for like a day and a half, bro. Something fucking stupid. And we had like no water. Like we were getting like delirious, being stupid. That was a little freaky just because the train was like bigger than the tracks itself were like wider, Yeah, it's just kind of like a roller coaster. When I took Justin on his fucking first train, it's like he wouldn't stop looking at the wheels. Like he'd be like, dude, these fucking wheels are like moving sideways on the fucking track. Like they're like, but they're actually made like that, come to find out, which is hilarious.
When you're just out there, you're just kind of like passing through these rural parts of the country.
Oh my God, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's super beautiful, dude. I've seen some really cool stuff, some really beautiful spots. Sometimes you'll, stop in the middle of nowhere and there'll be like a trickling waterfall or something, or some fucking horses out in the distance and stuff. And yeah, you're just like, well, I mean, once you get on that train, like you're there. Wherever it's going, you're going. Yeah, I do remember the first time I hopped on the train with Mark and I was like, wow, we're leaving. I was like, we're fucking gone. Exhilarating experience for sure.
Do you think that kind of lifestyle like hardened you and prepared you for like, kind of like being a man and everything? Because you kind of ventured out. You're like a fucking explorer almost. Yeah, I almost compare it to, honestly, one of the books I read when I was traveling was the Book of Five Rings. And it was this like samurai guy. And I remember there was a story of like, as a samurai, you would leave home when you were like 13 years old. So I kind of took on that role. I was like, this is an experience. I'm going to leave. And then, yeah, it was. I mean, it got me smart. I got in some of my first fights. I was doing a lot of hard drugs and shit, but yeah, it definitely builds your character for sure. And that's hard. That's a hard, like, people don't understand. That's a hard life.
Yeah.
When you're hooked on shit, you're going from city to city, and you gotta kind of like make your shit. Like, I mean, look, tell me about this.
Yeah. Fucking rest in peace, Felicity. That place was interesting. No one spoke. It was like a Latin town, little village, big crime area. Cops came up to us one time like, y'all know where y'all are at? Mark was all wasted and he was like, dude, I've been to LA County, but I don't care. And the cop was like, he's not the smart one of the group, huh? I was like, no, sir. Well, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, no, that was in Little Village, Chicago. That was kind of scary. You know, you'd wake up. We had this dog that slept in my sleeping bag, and we'd be asleep like underneath some like Latin King fucking like tags and shit. And there was one time I just remember waking up. You know, we were pounding whiskey all fucking night and shit, and 40s and shit. And I remember waking up and Scrappy dude, my friend's dog, was sleeping at the foot of my sleeping bag, and this guy was walking. I just remember like opening my eyes. And this guy was just like slowly walking to us. And then when I was like, what the fuck, who is that? And then fucking Scrappy dude comes out barking, bah, 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 bah. And then fucking the guy just like turns around like nonchalant, was like, and just like turn around. I just remember being like, God, and you just run into shit like that all the time. Yeah, you're always on defense. Oh yeah, these guys who bought us the 40s were actually trying to fucking screw the girls we were with. One of our girl, Elizabeth, fucking awesome chick. She actually, spoke Spanish, so she could hear these guys talking about like, oh, I'm gonna fucking do this and that. And then me and my buddy Kev were like, yo, we're gonna fucking bust these dudes up. You know what I'm saying? So like we're like walking behind them and shit, and like finding shit on the ground. Like nothing ever happened that time, but it was just like, you know, it was always like that, you know, or being freezing cold. I remember being freezing cold and we were in Wicker Park area, sleeping in a fucking alleyway on a loading dock, and I remember waking up to a paddy wagon and getting fucking kicked in the ribs by a cop being like, wake up, boom. And I remember being freezing. It was like sleet snowing in Chicago. We were trying to find a fucking laundromat to go hang out in and anything, and we actually got kicked out of 2. I don't remember where we went. That might have been the night we got housed up.
When you're like kind of on the street, what are you doing for money?
So at first, I was spanging, so we call it spare changing. Once I got with a crew, we would have people that would sit in spare change, and then we would have people that would go out and white box. So like you'd find people like, you know, just left a restaurant with like white boxes, and you'd be like, hey man, you know, you gonna finish that? You know, and like so you come back, you know, when you have a crew and you got fucking white box, they should be spanging and collecting change, but honestly, when I was in a little village, that was a big lesson because we got called out by some big Mexican chick, dude. And she was like, you fucking taking money from my fucking people? You don't think we're fucking broke? Da 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 da. Like, it was like that. And I was like, oh fuck, I feel like a piece of shit. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, this bitch about to fucking beat my ass. And so then I was like, okay, I'm gonna play guitar. You know what I'm saying? It makes me feel better, like busking, you know? I started playing guitar. I don't remember where I got this fucking, probably a thrift store or something. I had a red guitar. I started getting my own thing because, you know, people who are spanging ain't giving you fucking money because they want to go get fucking drugs and beer for themselves, you know, and they're not your fucking friend. They're all surviving. So I started getting smart. And one of my things was like, I'd go up to a group of guys or someone who's just leaving a bar, and I'd be like, hey guys, I ain't gonna lie to you, dude. I just got in town, dude. We just like hop train or hitchhike, whatever. And I was like, I'm like $4 short on a half gallon, dude. You got $4? And they'd be like, oh, yeah, fuck yeah, absolutely. Next people, hey guys, I ain't gonna lie, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like $4 short. And then I had a lot of success in like Nashville. I'd go on Broadway. Me and my homie, I'd be on one side, he'd be on the other side. I told him my game. We go all the way down, and then meet at the end of it and be like, yes sir, you know, let's go get fucked up, you know? So
people don't understand how much work it takes.
Yeah.
When you're on the street, and like especially if you got like addictions.
Oh yeah.
And you gotta constantly feed that. You're paranoid as fuck. You might be going through withdrawals and shit.
Oh fuck yeah, yeah. I never had it, you know. I would do anything you put in front of me, but I was blessed that I don't think I ever really got addicted like some, you know, people did. But I definitely was like, I would do anything, I mean, you put in front of me. I eventually got smart because these girls, you know, girls would be like, hey, Mason, we saw you get that kick down. You want to just give us $20? We'll, you know, we'll get it back to you, you know. And my dumb ass young, I'd be like, yeah, you know, but eventually I was like, fuck them. You know what I'm saying? I was like, so eventually I got smart and I had like $60 in my socks at least at all times. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, felt good because I was like, okay, I got my own money. I'm surviving on my own.
Fast forward all these years later, you're a father,
Yep.
homeowner, right?
Yep.
Contractor, very successful contractor, successful tradesman.
Yep.
How do you look back on those times now?
Terrifies me for my daughters. Like if my daughter did that, I would fucking freak out. Sometimes I have difficulty, what I feel like, socializing, just because, you know, I take pride in the fact that, you know, I've slept under bridges and, you know, seen, you know, what some people for whatever reason would consider lesser of a person. Going from that to walking properties with like millionaires and shit, it's just like you can just see that fucking difference in that, the underlying issue in this fucking society we live. And it's just like, it's a lot sometimes for my head to wrap around. Like sometimes I feel like, you know, what is normal? You know what I'm saying? And I have a lot of questions like that. I just have a lot of questions constantly running through my head.
People are too judgmental to people living on the street, people hustling?
Oh, fuck yeah. And it's just, you can see it though. I mean, you can see it as like, I always picture everything, like nothing has changed since, you know, Roman medieval times. Like, it's like, there's still a tax collector. There's still fucking, you know, a big separation gap between poverty and, you know, the rich. And it means fucking nothing. Like, it really doesn't. Like, if someone's happy doing their thing and, you know, and they're not harming anyone else, it's like, let them be happy. This is my moment. No, I would say I live by this phrase that I love so much. And it's, you know, the same energy God sends to the rose to tell it to bloom is the same energy God sends to our hearts. And I would take that and run with it. And I would help when you can, even if you can't. Karma's real. Manifesting is real. You know, it got me to where I'm at. It got me out of a really shitty situation. Just help others. Be humble. I fail at that a lot, but you know, try your hardest, drop your ego, always push yourself, know that God is a verb. You know, it takes action to achieve what you want to achieve in life, or maybe you don't, and that's fucking okay, you know, and just realize that your problems aren't shit to other people, and that, you know, you're okay. You know what I'm saying? And if you need help, go fucking get some help.